have you ever thought about starting your podcast and the thing that's hindering you, the thing that's holding you back, the problem that you have is, what do I do if I'm the only one there? There is no guest. You had a guest, your guest canceled. Or you're just running the type of platform where it's just you. You're a solo entertainment or solo entity on your podcast platform. It's just you. Guess what? We're here to help. We
That's
want to
right.
help you answer those questions, help you better understand how to do that thing. Listen, that is Joe.
That is
That
Marion.
is Joe.
And I am a podcast pro.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Pro, listen. Pro, P. On purpose, purposeful with the things that you're doing on your platform. Resilient. Listen, you take those obstacles and turn them into opportunities just to prove to yourself, listen, I could do it. I could figure this out. And that, oh, outstanding. Outstanding. You want to stand out as a unique, amazing you that you are. Joe, help me with this. Help me with this. I want to help the people understand how they can speak and deliver solo episodes, meaning they're the only person that's sitting there, that's speaking, that's giving up wisdom and information and education and just helping people to have a better understanding about that thing that they're so masterfully talking about.
Well,
Listen, I just want to give this quick example. Just like
go ahead.
Trevor Noah on The Daily Show. Listen, I know
Yes.
everyone, that's not a podcast. Listen, if you're watching podcasts, it's just as if you're watching a TV show. It's the same thing. If you just get that in your mind, it'll kind of just make it more familiar for you. Make it easier for you to connect and understand. But Trevor Noah found a way to sit there and it'll just be him on camera. And this man would take the news and literally have you sit there and ponder and think about it in so many different directions and from so many different angles that it'll have you questioning yourself and your understanding and actually raising it to another level. That's what being a solo podcast caster is. That's what doing an episode like that, that's what your goal and everything is. So, you tell me what's your example of a solo podcast or a solo show?
So another example, and although he does have guests on his podcast frequently, another great example would be Mark Lamont Hill. A lot of people may know him from his work on BET. I know he's done work on, I believe, CNN. He has his own series that he does, I want to say every night, called Night School on YouTube. And one of the first times I actually watched his podcast, interestingly enough, he was talking about one of my professors from college, Professor Jody Dean, and she took a huge stand in terms of her position when it came to the whole Israel-Hamas conflict. And like, I watched him for probably like a good 10 to 12 minutes. He was by himself. He didn't have anybody else on with him to talk about the whole situation. And I found out probably more in those 10 to 12 minutes of him outlining everything that was going on than I probably would have found out about from anywhere else other than reading a blog or reading Huffington Post or something like that. But the fact that he was able to basically give the greatest hits, so to say, of what was going on in the situation and why she was she was suspended from Hobart College, where I went to school. I was able to get a lot of information in that time. And because he understood how to engage the audience, how to be inviting to the audience, how to make it interesting, and how to make it inspiring all at the same time, he was able to capture my attention and thousands of people's attention at the same time.
Thousands of people attention at the same time. Listen, just as the title of this episode was just inspired by someone who captured the whole world at the same time. Go ahead and give everybody the title of this episode. When he
Yes.
said it, everybody, I lost. I lost it. You gotta
Because
give a quick backstory on it.
so real quick, we were trying to come up with the title for the show, and instantly, my man, the king of R&B, Bobby Brown, came to mind, and all I could think was good to go solo. And so, Are You Good to Go Solo was born as part of the title of tonight's episode.
My goodness. The blueprint to podcasting by yourself. And we are here to give you the 3 foundational blueprint keys that you need. He already mentioned them, but we're about to unpack them. Listen, that first key you need, it needs to be your podcast episode solo. It needs to be inviting, even though you are the only person there. It needs to be inviting to your audience. You want to engage them and bring them in. And you know how you could start to do that? A good way to start to do that is to start with the problem. It's to just put it right in people's face. What's the issue that we're going to be dealing with in this time? In this space, this is what we're going to be addressing. This is why we need to be addressing it. This is who it affects. How do you feel about it? Let's just get into it. So you really just want to get that problem, get it up front, get it in people's faces so that they have a good understanding of what you're about to be discussing. Let me tell you something. When you pose that problem, you want to make people start to think. So you don't want to say it in a simple, like we were talking about, just that talkative way. You want to make it very profound and really have them gravitate to it. You want to make that thing just to spark something in someone to make them go, wait, what? Oh, I gotta listen to this because I know how I feel about it, and what they just said doesn't line up with it, or what they just said is going to give me the fuel for everything I believe because they just sounded like they agreed with me. But guess what? Your job is actually to, oddly enough, play both sides of the field, but then end with that middle line. Why are you playing both sides? What I mean by playing both sides of the field is you want to bring both thinking, both arguments of for and against to the table on whenever that topic is. You want to bring both. That way you're drawing in an audience in totality. You're not leaving anyone out. You're not bashing anyone, but you're going to bring everyone in. Well, so-and-so thinks this about this, and so-and-so or this group or this organization thinks this about this. And then you're letting people go, okay, well, this is my side and this is my side. And then you want to unpack it with the wisdom and all the research. Yes, that's his favorite word. And all the research that you've done, because you definitely want to make sure you're inviting everyone to participate. And that last thing is you don't want to pick a subject and then you haven't done your research. And then it's like you're finished talking real quick. Or you just talk real quick because you're nervous, because you don't feel really grounded in it. You don't really have a deep understanding to be able to unpack it. You want to make sure you're passionate about that thing. Yes. So take that time. Do that research. Listen to other people speaking on the topic. Look things up. Look at how was this 5 years ago? Depending on how deep that topic is. How was it before? How is it now? What's the trajectory of it in the future? That type of research. Who does this impact? How has this impact? Has this financially brought people up? Does this really just take people down financially? Or has this impacted people's religion or their stances on politics? At all of those aspects, you want to take the topic and then look at it from different aspects so that when you come to the table, you have great information, impactful, transformational change information to give to people to be able to make a difference in your field. So, you know, that's just what I say. What you think, Joe?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I absolutely love the part about being passionate about whatever subject that you're talking about, because in that passion, that's when you make things interesting, because
Hmm.
nobody's going to be interested or nobody's going to be engaged in something and they don't believe that you're actually passionate about what it is that you're talking about. So that's where you really make that transition or that segue into making the subject or whatever you're talking about something that really gets people going, or like, okay, like you got me on the edge of my seat, you got me here, you got me to the Greek, all right, now what? And that's where you, and saying I am a podcast pro, comes in, because it is about the I am, it is about who you are, what you bring to the table. Your unique perspective is key in really keeping people's interest, because anybody could talk about the same five subjects or the same one subject, but it's all about finding that one angle that nobody's talking about. Like for me,
Mm.
whenever I write about something, whenever I talk about something on a podcast, um and there have been a lot of times where I've had to be the only person talking about it, my goal was to always find that one thing or that one angle or that one part of the subject that nobody's talking about. That's how you separate yourself from everybody else. That's how you make yourself interesting, to say, oh, wow, I watched this podcast, or I listened to that podcast, and they all said the same thing, but you said something that I didn't even think about. That goes back to getting them thinking, but it also ties into being unique. And another way to be unique is in storytelling. I am, like, ever since I've been a kid, I have been big on stories. I think that really comes from being in the from the era where you read, where you did reading. Reading is fundamental. Like I'm from that era of, like, the story is really what gets people interested. And the key thing is you have to tell an interesting story, or you have to connect, say, your stories to whatever it is, or stories of people that you know. Like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be your story. I think that's what makes rap music so interesting. That's what makes a lot of different storytelling type of genres of music so interesting, is that the stories don't always have to be your stories. Even movies, even TV shows, the stories don't always have to be your stories, but it's a way to correlate what it is that you're talking about in order to really illustrate the importance of what you're talking about and make it more interesting for the viewer or for the listener. Then you think about some of the quick tips that you can give people. Like, it could, whatever it could be something like, say, finances. You could find out certain information in terms of, I don't know, we could talk about real estate, we could talk about rights, we could talk about all of these different things that you could bring on a podcast or make a subject out of. And it's like, okay, here are these quick things that could be very helpful in order for you to really be interested even more in the subject itself. Those quick little hits that it's not overly detailed, but it's not lacking detail either. And then, like, thinking about anecdotes and humor, like, I'm big on, you make me laugh. You know what I'm saying? Or say something that is, like, is quirky, it's clever, it's something that is like, okay, it maybe off kilter a little bit. It could be direct humor, something that's obviously funny, something that could be like, maybe you got to think about it for a second. It's like, I always think about Michael Collier on Def Comedy Jam. He was like, laugh now and figure it out when you get home. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to hit people with that kind of humor, or you got to hit people with, like, the Bob Newhart, Seinfeld type of dry humor, whatever fits your brand, whatever fits how you tell stories, how you deliver jokes, how you engage people. All of it is on the table. That's really what it comes down to. So, really thinking about transitioning from interesting, what do you think, Mary, is the last thing that they got to be once you invite them and once you got them interested?
Hmm. Once you invite them in, and you got them interested in what you're talking about, now you need to inspire them. You literally touch them, their heart or their mind, or even them physically to make them do something differently or to make them have confirmation in what they're doing. I think that's what either there are two ways I learn from somebody. Either I can learn what to do, or I can learn what not to do. There are two ways to learn from people. So
Yeah.
that's why, you can inspire them in their heart, inspire their thinking, inspire them to get to moving or taking action physically. Now, listen, that inspiration to people, you're going to have to touch someone's heart. You're literally going to have to share your heart.
Yes.
You have to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing your own personal trials and victories in those trials, obstacles, and the overcome over those obstacles, and even just being honest with, I actually still struggle with this, but I'm working on it by doing this. Being vulnerable and sharing, you were talking about stories and sharing that. In what invites me most is to get to know the person who's doing the sharing, to get to know who they are, what happened to make them do what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they passionate about
Yeah.
doing that thing?
Yeah.
So for me, that's where that passion is kind of evident, because they don't have a problem with being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a problem with saying, I don't know. I looked this up. These statistics say, to let someone know, oh, they didn't just rely on their knowledge. They went out and
Mm-hmm.
sought other knowledge. They understood that they didn't have all the answers, but they thought enough of this to go and seek the answers and bring them back and represent that. Listen, I had to get this from here. You have to be vulnerable. Let me tell you, the hardest and most difficult person for me to work with is someone that says, I know to everything. Someone
Mm-hmm.
who asks you a question and you take the time to answer it in a way that you feel like they would best receive. Listen, I talk to everybody on different levels, diverse people with diverse backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be able to convey it where it's palatable for you, or where you've shown me it's palatable for you. So
Right.
I went through the painstaking mental hurdles of giving you that information, and then your response is, I know.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, so why you ask?
Right. Right.
So be vulnerable.
Yes.
You don't know, nobody knows. We're not even here to say we know everything. We want to invite you guys to get in on this.
That's right.
Get in on it. Get in the comments. Ask the questions. Share your wisdom, please. We are all growing. So you want
Mm-hmm.
to be vulnerable. That's me right there, being vulnerable. Then you
Yes.
want to, I like this because this is something you said, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
You said it in our last conversation. You said, be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes.
That
Yes.
means even talking about topics that you personally, normally, that's not your thing.
Right. Yeah.
You have to come outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know trademarking, but I talk with El Elyon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know life insurance, but I talk with Auntie Shaky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, there were things that I know about them. I don't know them. I
Yeah.
talk to people that know them. I don't know dancing at quinceañeras. I don't know how to choreograph all of those things, but it was all right because I had Mariano to talk to. It's like
Right.
you go and you seek the information and you get uncomfortable. You get comfortable with being uncomfortable on your platform. And
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
fine that people are coming or that you're talking about a topic that you're not familiar with, because you're going to take the time and do your research.
That's
You're
right.
going to take the time to educate yourself so when you come to your community, you can educate them. And that last one, make sure you leave the people with tangible takeaways.
Hmm.
This is how you inspire people. You want to leave them with tangible takeaways that they can actually go and apply
Hmm.
immediately.
Yes. Yes.
You want people to be able to walk away and go, they said this much stuff, but I got this one thing that I'm going to try and I'm going to apply and I'm going to see how it works. And that's what we want you to do from here. So what would be, I'm at tangible takeaways. Joe, what would be your tangible takeaway from everything we just talked about?
So, my tangible takeaways from everything that we talked about, first and foremost, when you are inviting people, I would say the thing that stands out when you are inviting people to be a part of your platform, even though you are the only one talking, I am more engaged or I am more invested with people who are passionate about what they're talking about. Informed, because that's the key thing. You got to be informed, but passionate, because you can be passionate all you want, but you haven't informed yourself. So, first and foremost, make sure that you inform yourself so that you can have that passion for what you're talking about when you're trying to invite people, when you're trying to say, hey, come on in. I want to talk about this one thing. Like I'm really, the battery is in my back. I'm ready to, have a conversation with y'all about it, engage y'all about it, get some comments, get some feedback, all of this good stuff. But you got to make sure that you're passionate about it first. Then that's how you become interesting. And I would say when it comes to being interesting, one of the things that jumps out the most are the stories.
Hmm.
I think of something, and I cannot remember the brother's name. I know his first name is Ray. He's somebody that's in the music business. But one of the things that he said, this was about like people putting their stuff on social media, putting their music on social media and just telling people, hey, go listen to my album. It's dropping at midnight. It's like, ain't nobody finna listen to your album. You know what I'm saying? You better give me a story with that. You better, give me something a little bit more than
Right.
that to get me interested
Mm-hmm.
in your project. Podcasts, especially when it's just you, podcasts are just the same way. You have got to give people stories to make people invest their time, because that's the key thing. They're investing their time on whatever evening, whatever morning, whatever afternoon, late night, no matter what it is, to spend with you. They could be doing anything. If you don't get them with that story, you're not going to get them interested. So make sure that you tell those stories and don't be afraid to tell those stories. And tying that in with making it inspiring. The key thing, some of the best stories that I personally love are the ones where people are vulnerable, where they are transparent, where they tell their own personal experiences. They connect other people's experiences that affect them in certain ways and cause them to really be empathetic and understanding and have compassion. Like, people want to know that you're human at the end of the
Hmm.
day. The best way that you can inspire somebody at the end of a podcast, especially when you're doing it by yourself, is to remind people we are humans, we are people, we have feelings, we have thoughts. That's how, when you're podcasting by yourself, you are good to go solo.
Hey, come on here. Good to go solo. Listen, and in my recap, my takeaways, that inviting, I think the first thing people see is that title.
Mhm.
The title of what you're about to talk about. Are you good to go solo? That is an amazing to me. It's like, so what are they talking about? Then it
Right.
literally answers the question. This is the blueprint to podcasting by yourself. You see how
Mhm.
clear and direct that is? First, it made you go, wait, what? Then you read
Mhm.
the rest of it and said, oh, well, listen, I am trying to, let me click in on here because I am trying to find that out. So that's that first, the actual first invitation is that title. And
Mhm.
that interesting is the effort that we took in making the title. We made the
Yes.
title interesting. Like, we made it interesting from someone who literally is known globally. Bobby Brown, everybody knows.
Mhm.
Every little step I take. Listen, everybody knows Bobby Brown. My name is Brown. That's what
That's
they
what
call.
they call
Listen.
me.
So we made it, we just put that little twist and I'm only applying these three to the title.
Yep.
That was a little twist that made that title interesting
Mhm.
and inspiring. What inspires people in the title, I'm just talking about the title. In the
Mhm.
title of this live, what inspires people is listen, I'm going to walk away with a blueprint on podcasting by myself.
Mhm.
I need that.
Yep.
I need that.
Yeah.
I need that. Those three, just the title alone, applying those three, you see how this blueprint works, how that laid itself out.
Yep.
Just from that, just those three steps gave you that blueprint. And that was just on the title. So I know your episode's going to be amazing. And if
That's right.
you have added tips and tools that you can think of, listen, they don't all have to start with I. But if they do, that would be amazing. If you could figure out it to start with an I, we would be so elated. But I would love it if you would go into the comments and add to the comments the things that you feel are a part of this blueprint to podcasting solo. Even though podcasting solo, it's the same. It does take the same tools and characteristics to do it with someone or even with a group. I think you
Yeah.
still need the same things, but we just wanted to come and just talk about the solo aspect, just so you don't think it all has to be done with someone. Because I'm telling you, when your guest calls you 2 seconds before it's time to record or time to go live, you need to be able to proceed.
That's
So
right.
I would say for me, I have 2 shows, 3 shows written up already. Somebody call out, cool. This is what I'm talking about. I already know it. I already did my research. I already wrote my outline. I already know what it is, like the back of my hand. I read it every once in a while. I'm ready to go. All I need is a quick refresher on my notes, and I can still go. Don't miss, and just keep moving forward. And you won't feel like you're obligated to other people showing up for you.
That's right. That's right. Show up for yourself.
Show up for you. Come on with it.
Mhm.
Show up for yourself. You won't feel like, oh my goodness, if they call out, what am I going to do? Now hold on. Don't get your girl wrong, because I also have 2 guests on standby. Why I
Mhm.
have 2 people? I have 2 people that I know are available around that time and that know how to hold a conversation. We get along really well. They know so familiar and engaged with my platform. They've been on before, or I already knew that they could. We've already discussed that they could at that time if needed. So though it's not that it has to be one way or the other. Have your options ready. We're here to tell you all the ways we're getting this thing done. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Whew.
So make sure if you love the content that you have been seeing tonight, that you've seen in the past episodes, make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are at I Am a Podcast Pro. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook at I Am a Podcast Pro. We are a community of people looking to help other people to sharpen their skills when it comes to this whole podcasting thing. And also make sure that you follow us at IG at I Am a Podcast Pro. We are at I Am a Podcast Pro anywhere. Also, if you have any suggestions, maybe it's a future show, maybe you have any questions, please feel free to email us at I am a podcast pro at gmail.com. Once again, that is I am a podcast pro at gmail.com.
Hey, come on here. Listen, we are here. Our mission, our purpose is to go behind the mic and help the speaker speak and give that message with power and integrity and understanding of what they're doing and great confidence. So that's why we're here.
And remember, she's Marion.
Hey, And he's Joe.
And I am a podcast pro. And what does that PRO stand for? One more 10 for.
Listen, P is for purpose, R is for resilient, and O, outstanding. Listen, stand out as your unique self. See you
That's
next
right.
time.
Thank you all for watching.